Hello, everybody, and welcome to WCEG Talk Radio, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. You're listening to Take a Stand, and I am Reverend Diane Dougherty. You can also like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and we are live streaming this, and it is now on YouTube on your smart TV. You can also follow us on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio. Call us in. The number's at the bottom of the screen, 678-619-1402, and join in the conversation. This week, we have a very fascinating guest that I met at the Capitol when we were talking about school issues with many representatives from the state and city government. And her name is Antoinette Tuff. She was also on Vincent Cheek's show, Conversations with Education. And I am absolutely fascinated with this woman whose life story is as common as yours and mine, but who took a stand at a time when she was not ready, but who put her faith in God and decided on the moment that she would do something to make a positive change. You might have heard of this or watched the TV show, the TV movie that's out as of last year. She's also written a book. She's been on many talk shows, panelist, and she is now working in Decatur. Am I right? A Decatur school?
I work actually in DeKalb County School District and also in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, so without further ado, I'm going to let you listen to this wonderful woman, Antoinette Tuff. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I'm sure for all the listeners, you'll be tired after you've listened to all the things that she's doing, but she's young.
That sounds great. I'll take it.
So Antoinette, I thank you for coming. And I would like you to, I didn't tell the names of all of this because I would like you to talk mostly about yourself because this is about you. And I want you to start with the issue that you had previous to this incident at school, and let the viewers know how common your story is with their stories in our times of struggle and when we have to look toward God and depend on our faith.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Reverend Dougherty. It's when you go back and look at it, this is my second time on WCEG. Just being able to be with you all is great. Talk radio and being able to see, like, what does that look like and having a wonderful time with you all. So I appreciate you all inviting me back. One of the things that people always say, you know, you were so extraordinary. But I was an ordinary woman listening to God's voice to be an extraordinary person. When you go back and look at it, it's all about, like, how do you be prepared for that moment? And I didn't think I was. And how many of us are sitting wondering, are you prepared when your name is called? I didn't think I had it deep down inside of me, but when that AK-47 and that young man walked into that elementary school carrying over 500 ammo, that was the first time I've ever seen a bullet. I was like, what is an ammo? You know, they said they bullets. And I'm like, really? At first I thought he was playing. But that time for me was overwhelming because 2 days before that, on August 20th, 2013, I tried to commit suicide right here in Atlanta on one of the busiest streets right off of Wesley Chapel. I walked out in front of a truck, in front of a car, and neither one of them hit me. Not understanding why not, but understanding 2 days later why not was because God was preparing me for that young man to walk into the elementary school where I worked. He He passed several schools to get to my school. He parked his car right next to my car. And then I got a phone call from the bank wanting $14,000. All of this happened to be able to help me up so that I could be the one that was sitting in the front office with the gunman that day. Sometimes we go back and not understanding all of that, but everything that we go through in our lives, moment by moment by moment, is setting us up for the right moment. And you got to be able to know that. But first of all, you have to listen to God when he's calling your name and giving you the instructions. I remember everybody asking me, what did you say? What did you say? I have to go back and listen to the 911 tape myself because I can't even repeat what I said.
So Antoinette was sitting at school, and a gunman got out of a car with an AK-47 and 500 rounds of ammunition and walked into her office.
So this is the thing that I want to tell all parents. And even if you're not a parent, maybe your auntie, maybe your uncle, and you say, okay, I'm going to go pick up my child from school. I'm going to pick up my niece or nephew from school. That gunman got into that school that day because the parent kindly held the door open for the parent behind her. She did not know that that was the gunman.
She did not see the AK-47?
No.
It's kind of hard to hide it.
He had a big black overcoat on. And I don't know if he had it out when she was there, but when me and the teacher looked up, it was out. He was actually pointing it all around like, we're going to die today. You know, let everybody know we're here. We're going to die today. It's the most overwhelming moment that you can ever encounter. And I hope that no one is ever in a life-threatening situation. That's one of the reasons why I decided that out of all of this, I can take the situation and go into a downward spiral like I was going. Having the overwhelming moments, because people was thinking just the AK-47 was putting me in the overwhelming moments.
Yes.
But it wasn't. My husband had just left me after 33 years. The man that I had been with since I was 13 years old. So I was finding myself at 46 by myself for the very first time. I had never slept by myself. I had never been in a house by myself. I didn't even have an electric bill in my name. And so when you're dealing with all of this, it's overwhelming. You're trying to figure it out. And it's like, okay, what does this look like for me? And so all of that on top of the gunman was putting me in a downward spiral. And so I had to tell myself, okay, Antoinette, get up. Antoinette, I had to literally talk to myself. And I'm realizing today it's all right to talk to yourself, as long as you don't answer yourself. Because sometimes you got to give yourself a good old pep talk. And I had to do that. I had to be able to say to myself, Antoinette, it's okay. It's okay to be content in the state that you're in right now, and knowing that every state, every moment is subject to change. And that's what allowed me to be able to see that, okay, Antoinette, you got to get it. Come on, you got to get it. Even though I don't feel good, even though I don't understand it, even though it's overwhelming to me, I go back and I say to myself, acknowledge God in all your ways, and He will direct your path.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
One of the things I often tell people is we will go through the late fall, winter, and early spring of our life, and it doesn't look so good. But those are parts of life, and it is important not to die there of your own accord, because you'll never, ever get to spring. So when I heard your story, one of the things I thought of immediately is that in spite of all of that, she turned and always listened to the God that she knew was always with her. Just like we know that God is the creator and continually reconstructs creation and our lives, we have to go through that deep period, not stop it. But what I thought was so amazing is that you had practiced enough that everything clicked in.
I don't know about practicing.
You practiced long before this happened. We practice our faith every day.
Oh, no,
we
my
give
faith,
a
yes.
little bit
Oh, yeah.
every day. If we don't do that, then we're not ready when.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I get up every moment, and I get on the prayer line every morning.
Do you really?
I do. And these people I have never met in my entire life.
All right.
But I get on 3 prayer lines before I start my day. That's every day.
3 prayer lines.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to that, listeners. 3 prayer lines every day.
And I have never met these people. They're from all over the world.
On the telephone.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I do. And I do that because I have to be grounded.
Yes.
It's important for me that in spite of all of what's going on in my life, I got to be grounded in God. And the reason why is because when the gunman came into the school that December, my husband had said one more time that he was coming home. And so it was overwhelming to me, so I thought he was coming home, but it was another one of his unfavorable moves. Let me put it that way. I was trying to find the right word to say for that. Unfavorable moves. But in that, I went that day to ask a friend of mine, could I use his gun to kill me and my ex-husband and the woman.
What?
Mm-hmm. And my friend said, you don't even know what a gun look like. You don't even know how to shoot it. What you gonna do with it? And I was like, I don't know, but you can teach me. He said, you can't teach nobody in 2 minutes how to shoot no gun. And I'm like, well, I just want a gun. And he's like, well, what you gonna do with it? I'm like, I don't know. He said, you gonna get over there and kill yourself. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I can do that. But he's like, nope. He said, I'm not gonna give it to you. And so he said, well, have you ever seen a gun? And I was like, no. He's like, well, what would make you think? I said, I just see it on TV. He said, TV and a real gun is 2 different things. But that moment, I realized, I said, okay, my family members was saying to me, come over to their home. And I sat in that Walmart parking lot, Kroger parking lot on Wesley Chapel. Something about that Wesley Chapel, I tell you. I sat on that Kroger parking lot in that Wesley Chapel, and I remember God saying to me, I need you to go to church. It was New Year's Eve service. That's how I remember so well. And I got to that New Year's Eve service, and I can't even tell you what the preacher preached. I sat in that service and literally just cried like a baby and said, God, I promise you, if you get me beyond this moment.
That's right.
And allow me to be able to see that life is worth living for.
That's right.
And that I should live and not die. And that I would put you first and me second and no one else. And that was December 2012. And to this day, 2019, I have put God first and me second. So today, I love me unconditionally. Took me a long time to get here, though. But what a wonderful feeling.
Listen to that, listeners. Listen to that, listeners. That's a witness.
Oh, yes.
That is a witness.
I think for us as women, we take our relationships, we take our children, we take our jobs, and we soak it up like a sponge. Never realizing in the process of knowing who you are. Mm-hmm. I had to do something. I do professional speaking now. And one of the things that I teach within my professional speaking, we do a thing called Prepared for a Purpose that's based off of my book, Prepared for a Purpose. But one thing that I do with my women and in my groups is I do a thing what we do with the mirror, because it helped me. And we get a mirror and look at ourselves in the mirror to realize who we really are.
Right. And
introduce yourself to you. I know I had to do that for the longest time. I could not say Antoinette meet Antoinette without crying. Antoinette love Antoinette without crying. Antoinette validate Antoinette without crying.
So listen, everybody, listen.
So it took me a long time to just get to that moment to say those words to myself, to know that God said in his word that he would give me peace that passed all understanding. And you hear your grandmother say it and your mother say it, but you really don't know what it really means. So it took me a minute to realize that, but it wasn't until I did that exercise that I realized Antoinette meet Antoinette. And so when I'm doing my professional speaking, I see women standing on the stage with me, sitting in the audience with me, even men having their hands as the mirror and using mirrors that I give them to be able to look at themselves and introduce themselves to themselves. And you talking about what a rewarding part in the presentation.
And that should be from a child.
Yeah.
That would be from a child.
Yeah, but how many of us parents even said that they loved you? More or less validated you?
Not my mother. Our parents never said that. They said, love is something you do. Watch me.
See? Or they would go and give you gifts and think that that was love. But how many of us sit down at the table, speak life into our children, pray over our children before they go out to school?
Very much so. Absolutely.
And I did that with my kids every day.
Did you really?
Oh, yes, every day.
Isn't this interesting? And you do have how many children? 3?
I have 2.
2. And what I used to say to parents is you can't love your child until you love yourself.
Yes.
But everybody's so busy doing all of these things in this consumer society that you are correct. We don't take time to look in the mirror. And consumerism is a deadly killer because it tells us if I don't have this, therefore I am not much.
Right.
So this little exercise strips everything. I used to say, God, help me love what other people love in me. And that's how I found myself.
Okay.
Because lots of people love me.
Yeah.
And I have always loved myself, but I have not recognized it. It's a recognition. It's a consciousness. It's raising it up to the full essence of understanding love for yourself.
And the thing that I see when I'm doing my presentations, that you'll be surprised. It doesn't make it has no gender to it. You'll be surprised how many men and women has not ever gotten that love or that validation.
Oh,
so
yeah.
When we're in the presentations,
or rejected it.
Right. So when we're there, it's like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? How does that work for me? And so I've seen men and women just stand there like, okay, how do I do this? Or afraid to do it because they don't want to bring down the walls of people knowing that they don't understand what that looks like. But when you get them in that comfortable space, you allow them to see your authentic, I love you unconditionally.
Right.
That, no matter what it looks like, that love and that unconditional love. Some of the things that I teach in another one of my presentation is tough tactics.
Not without anything that you own, anything you've achieved, anything that you have in your house, anything that you've had in the past. Just right now, unconditionally, bare naked you are beautiful. So what do you do with tough tactics?
So what did I do with my tough tactics is we talk about compassion, confidence, and control. And what does that look like? And we talk about crosshairs. It's like, how do you have a crosshair in your life? And crosshairs can be different things. So crosshairs can be in my personal life. I'm overwhelmed. I'm trying to be a mom. I'm trying to be a wife. I'm trying to work 9 to 5. I don't know how to juggle it. I don't know how to balance it. My kids need something. My husband is calling me. Dinner need to be ready. All these kind of crosshairs.
Tired.
Overwhelmed.
I'm getting tired.
So can I just get a mommy break? I just need a mama break. Can I just go and get a Calgon bath and get a couple of ice cream? I don't want nothing else. I don't need nothing. Just a good hot bath. So it's the crosshairs in your life. And then it becomes in your business. Your boss calling you. He's asking you to do something that you're not supposed to because that's not on your job description. You're trying to figure out. You're trying to have teamwork. You're trying to go over here because Susan done got on your nerves and Larry over here done called you all kind of things and you trying to figure out who we talking about. Oh, but it's you. So it becomes, how do you deal with all the crosshairs in your life and still at the end of the day show Larry and Sue compassion, confidence, and you be in control of it. That's what we talk about.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I tried to access your movie. It's called Faith Under Fire, and it's the Antoinette Tuff story. It was put out on the 27th of January in 2018.
Yes.
Show that. This is the. She's showing you. There it is, right there, and you can get it on Amazon.
Can you see it pretty good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
We all have a purpose, and the article was very well done because it talked about what you're doing now, which feeds into what you were saying, which is really character education. But it's your own character. You can't give something you don't have. And this article talks about how character education in schools is so important, because from an early age, as the children build these character traits, then they will be strong enough to face the winters of their life. And I just want to read the 10 of them that are listed in this article because I think they're great. First of all is compassion. No place to hate in the entire school. There's no place to hate in the entire school. Conflict resolution, cultural diversity and differences, race relations, how to bridge the gap between police officers and citizens. I love that one. Tolerance, accountability for your actions without punishment. I don't believe in punishment. I believe in accountability. How to use your voice, and also that every individual is valued and very important. So from what you were talking about, you had like a primary instigating incident that brought all of this together. But I still see that you didn't have it. You had it always because you've been practicing it your whole life. It's just that this incident brought it all together. I would like you to talk about exactly what happened, or give us a brief summary of the movie, or of your experience, not the movie.
Well, my experience is I actually went on set. So me, Tony, and the young man who played the gunman, I went on set to kind of show them like how to play our parts. It was important for me, even down to the principal who was actually in the movie, to be a female, because the principal at the time was a male, but he was nowhere on the property.
Oh.
So he was not even there. So it was the assistant principal and one of the teachers that was getting all the kids out of the building. And so out of all this time, they never had a voice. And so I wanted to be able to allow them to have a voice. And the way I did that was being able to allow the different characters that played different people within the actual movie itself have a voice. So I made sure that the principal was a female so that her voice could be heard. I made sure that the person that was coming out for the teachers were actually male and female that were actually in those roles. So when you see the different characters, those were the people that were actually in those roles playing those that were getting the children out. So it was important for me to be able to allow them to see that.
How many kids were in this school? It said like 800?
Over 870 students. And it was during dismissal, it was the busiest time of the day. So not only did we have students in the building, but we had parents. And normally during that time, we would have had a front office full of parents. And so there was nobody but God allowing that one parent to come.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Now, this gentleman I read got 20 years in prison. He was mentally ill. He had had 20 episodes of mental illness before he did this. Did he walk into the office with his AK-47, and were you there alone?
No. So he came in with the AK-47, and I was there helping the teacher with her paperwork. I just did a mental, I'm glad you said, because I just did a mental illness conference last week. Real interesting for me because I sat in those rooms to kind of see, getting an understanding, feeling the feelings that the actual gunman felt and understanding what that looks like. People say, well, Antoinette, how can you go in and talk about suicide? Or how can you go in and help kids that are homeless? How can you go in and be able to help people that are at-risk communities? I can do all that because I was that, and I'm that. That's me.
Yeah.
I was homeless before. I understand what it looks like to sleep outside, stand in abandoned buildings, hoping that somebody don't come in while you laying there on the floor and rape you and do all kind of crazy things to you. You know, trying to figure out, like, what does that do? Like, where's my next meal coming from? You know, I understand all that. So those are the people that I serve. And I wanted to go back to be able to see when that young man said to me I had not taken my medicine and that I should have went to the hospital. So I did this conference, and I do conferences and presentations to understand the mindset and the understanding, because what we do is we sit and judge.
Right.
But at the end of the day.
And react.
Right. But at the end of the day, that young man is somebody's son. He's somebody's nephew. He's going to be somebody's dad and somebody's husband one day. And so I know that no matter what it looks like, he didn't take his life, and the bullets didn't take his life, even though he tried to multiple times in that room with me. So I know that without a shadow of a doubt, with me sitting here with you today, God still has a plan for him. So I'm excited to be able to see where God's going to take him.
So how did you talk him down?
I can't even really tell you exactly that I just did this one thing.
One article said that he shot at the SWAT team.
Oh, he shot at them multiple times. He shot at the SWAT team. He shot in the community. He shot a couple of times in the room with me while the bullet was just flowing all around in the air. And I'm sitting there praying like, Lord, please don't let this bullet hit us. And so not only did he go and prop the door to shoot in the community, he's shooting at the police officers and the SWAT team. I'm sitting there by the window, hoping that the bullet don't hit me. And so I'm saying to him, baby, come on back in here, because bullets don't have no name. Bullets is flying everywhere. But he never did understand, or I'm not going to say understand, because I think he understood. He just didn't listen to me, that I thought. But what he wound up doing at the end, I was just talking to him, just telling him my story, showing that compassion, confidence, and control. And just allowing him to be able to know that at the end of the day, no matter what it looked like, I loved him.
I know. That was very important to the story.
And I think that's what we forget. Because what we do is we look at you from the outside. We don't understand why your hair not combed. We don't know why your clothes look like it look. We don't know why you look like you ain't had no bath. We don't know what happened to you the moment before we met you.
Right.
But we come and prejudge you at the moment that we meet you. And so for me, I didn't see color with this young man. I didn't see an AK-47 with him, nor did I see a young man coming in there saying that he had mental illness. He was only 20 years old.
Yes.
He was my children's age. So what I seen was a young man crying out for help, and who was going to help me? And so I think a lot of times what we do as people is that we go back and look at the outside and not the inside. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I just make it my business.
What was so wonderful is that you really disarmed him with love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did he just give you the gun?
So what he did is, after I'm talking to him and all that, he goes and he puts his gun, all the ammunition, because by this time he had just stacked bullets everywhere, all in his pockets and his coats. He was out there getting ready to shoot him up, bang, bang with the police. They were shooting up everywhere. So he had already had himself fully loaded. He had took all the magazines, I didn't realize it was magazines then, and loaded them up with the ammunition. He had them all in his pockets everywhere, and then what he had left over, he put a lot of them in his pockets to reload while he was out there to shoot with them. And so I just kept telling him, come back in here, bullets don't have no name. And a bullet grazed him.
Oh, the SWAT team shot back.
They shot back. They grazed him, and so he had a little blood. And so I think the blood scared him. Oh. On top of me talking with him. Uh-huh. And me telling him my story and all that. And so he came back in, and then by this time he's trying to kill himself. So he has the gun right here, about to shoot himself. I said, oh, no, we ain't doing that today, babe. No, we ain't doing that today. No, we ain't doing that today. That is not what we're doing today. No, we're not doing that. And so then he comes back, he said, you don't understand and all that. And just having conversation with him just like me and you were doing today. By that time, he takes and puts the bullets, the gun, and everything. He says, can I have a sip of water? He got his water, just took a sip of water. And he lays down on the floor and puts his hand, prostrates behind him as he lay down. You gonna tell me that ain't no God? Because who you know gonna have an AK-47 or 500 rounds of ammo and gonna lay prostrate on the floor and put their hands behind their back? People ain't doing that today. So that's why I tell people today, don't go in there trying to be I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna rescue. No. If God didn't tell you to rescue, you better make sure you're doing the right thing before you do it. Because if you don't have compassion, confidence, and control in the midst of it all, and you say the wrong thing to trigger that person, it could be not good. See, for me, one of the things that I did do is that we have to, and these are some of the things, some tools, tough tactic tools that I teach within my program. Is like, what are you going to say to trigger? One of my things that I said to the gunman was to trigger him. Because if you don't have, was to go back and be able to tell him I had to go to the bathroom.
Ah.
I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I sat there and shook and shaked and shake because he said I could go. But I was like, man, if I get him go to this bathroom right now, he had just went outside and started shooting in the community. I said, if I get up there, we gonna be all dead. And then he had went in. So when you come into the school, there was one door, even though he was in the front office, there was another door that he had to go to get to the kids.
Right. You know, I didn't tell you this, but I taught conflict management there to the teachers. But
okay.
That was in 2000.
Okay, so you know how it is.
I do.
Yeah. And so when you
it's very secure.
Very. And so when you look at all that as parents, when you're going into the school, I can't say this. I can't stress it more than enough. Don't let another parent come behind you. You just don't know what their motives is. It's important to let the secretary and them buzz them in.
Right.
Before you just go and let them in. Yeah, it's very important. So that's one of the reasons why.
Well, I have failed.
Well, we all failed
many times.
I failed before before the gunman came in too. I used to do the same thing.
It's a cultural thing. I'm not tuned into people having guns like you. I've never seen one. I've never seen one outside.
You don't want to see one. Go look at one in the store. That's to be a good look at it first. You don't need to see it like I've seen it.
Scary.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. But I can say this though. If I had to do it all over again, I would. And the reason why is this. My husband leaving me after 33 years set me up to save over 870 innocent children's lives on August 20, 2013. That day have now set me on a path to save people's lives all over the world.
Yes.
August the 25th and the 27th in the state of Georgia is Antoinette Tuff's Day. So people go to my website at AntoinetteTuff.com and also KidsOnTheMoveForSuccess.org and apply for my scholarships. They're able to go from January the 1st to June the 30th and apply for scholarships on my nonprofit, which is Kids on the Move for Success. That day also set me up to be able to speak to people who felt like they was hopeless and allow them to see that an ordinary person can be an extraordinary person. That day also allowed me to be able to, not just with my nonprofit and giving out scholarships, I was in Texas at my home and I had my parents who were, their children were my mentees when I was when they were in elementary school and pre-K and in kindergarten. They were now going into middle school and high school and having some difficulties. And so they was like, can you help me? I need your help. They didn't listen to nobody. So I found myself coming back and forth here to Atlanta trying to resolve issues to kind of help my babies out. So 2017 school year, we started Discovery STEAM Mentoring Program. I started that program with,
I don't know if you can see this, but this is, I think it's probably we'll put it on the website.
And I'll send it to you electronically so you can be able to send it to your listeners so they can be able to have it. I'll send it to you all electronically. Everything that we're talking about, I'll send it to you electronically.
Thank you.
But I started that Discovery STEAM mentoring program because I wanted my kids to be able to know that I still supported them even though I wasn't in the school. We started out with 3rd grade all the way to 5th grade. But the overwhelming response, I had to expand it to 12th grade. That first year, we impacted over 3,000 kids. That first year. Mm-hmm. And out of that, I was able to impact kids, not just in one school, but impact the Cobb County School District students. So those students that were my mentees that were in pre-K and kindergarten are now my peer-to-peer mentees.
Perfect.
And they come back to recycle in the community, to be able to come back to make a difference.
I can't tell you how important that is.
Very important.
How important that is. And that's what happens when you have a community school, where you have the children maintain a space and place in their neighborhood and are able to have an education in a system from kindergarten to high school.
And so that meeting that you see me at the state capitol, so with that meeting, I have youth trailblazers. So some of my kids, they go out with Parkland school shooting. Right after that school shooting in Parkland, I came together with you so that we can make a difference in allowing their voices to be heard and have town hall meetings where we bring educators, police officers, community leaders, parents and teachers. We have town hall meetings where we have actual adult panels where you can have the pastors on there, we have a community leader on there, but allowing our kids to be able to now have adults be responsible for what they're facing every day. And then we come back and have a student panel and they just flash out cards and flash out questions and how do I come back to help me? How do I come back to make sure that my school is safe and my community is safe? And then we come back and sit down and have table discussion. Round table discussion. So you can be at a table with the pastor, the police officer right there.
Everybody
in the community comes. And it was very successful, and out of that we created Youth Trailblazers. So my Youth Trailblazers just went to the House representative and spoke with them. They said, well, Ms. Tuff, you can have 15 minutes. Well, it was so powerful. They stopped the whole meeting and opened up the whole meeting and gave them over an hour.
What?
Gave them over an hour. And
well, what was it, the House of Representatives?
Yeah, the House of Representatives, Georgia House of Representatives.
When?
In November. And so what we did is they wound up stopping the meeting, took photos with my kids, but they sat there with their pens and pencils and their papers and took notes.
Because your kids are articulate.
Right. But then not only that, you got a young man, one of my youth trailblazers was, I'm not going to name the school, but he goes to one of the schools here in Georgia, and he went into the bathroom and a young man was hanging in the bathroom.
Oh, Jesus. So
we had to help him to not commit suicide. This is what our kids are facing every day. And so how do you do that?
We are totally out of context.
Out of context.
Out of context. We have no idea what they are facing. And from the white community, it's worse than that.
Well, you know what, my thing is this. I realized one thing about all of it is that I teach my kids, in my mentoring program, we have diversity. So we have all types of kids from all race there. And I teach them that color has no name. No matter what you look like, no matter what community you live in, we're all are facing something. And until we come to the table to have these tough discussions about what we're facing,
I think you have the right last name too. I mean, God gave that to you.
We got to come up with some solutions. Our kids are struggling. They are struggling, they're committing suicide, and they're killing themselves. And for me, it's important. By October the 1st, in one of my schools, there was 2 suicide attempts and 2 suicides by October the 1st. I just got a call and an email a few weeks ago that another child in that same school has committed suicide. That's a problem.
That's a culture.
No. It's a problem. You know why it's a problem? Because when somebody can sit in high places and now try to make some decisions and some changes to allow our kids to know that their voices are going to be heard, that's a problem for me. Because everybody's sitting back at their desks and not sitting. Okay. But until you, and I said
okay,
that.
Now, here's my question. Think about it. Whose problem is it?
It's everybody's.
Exactly. But do we even know about it?
Well, this is the thing.
There's the problem with the legislators. They're not necessarily connected to the schools or to the people anymore. They're connected to building up systems and businesses and getting money and fundraising. How much time do they spend really coming to understand what is happening to our kids?
Well, I'm going to say this.
And do they care?
I'm going to say this. And I only can say this because I experienced it. That Georgia House of Representatives committee sat in that room, and they had agencies and everything that was supposed to be on that agenda. And I told them, I said, an agency is not sitting in the rooms with our kids when they're getting bullied, threatened, gangs, and all that.
That's right.
We need you to hear what they're facing so we can make some changes. When they sat there and listened, they have followed up with me like, okay, what we're going to do, so we're looking at scheduling something else tonight, not just to educate our kids, but what can we do? We're bringing in law enforcement. Matter of fact, my students are going to be having lunch tomorrow because I bring in law enforcement. I need my kids to know what it means to stop and stand up. What it means to just throw your hands up. They need to know that young. We don't need to wait till they get in middle school and high school and try to teach them something. So tomorrow, my kids are going to be with the South DeKalb precinct, having lunch, understanding all this. And they're in second grade. My second grade through fifth grade. Tomorrow I'm going to have lunch with the police officers to be able to see what does that look like for me, Miss Tuff. We got to teach our kids younger. And another reason why I did that is because with me doing my Discovery STEAM mentoring program, I realized out of all of this, my kids couldn't read.
There you
so
go.
If you can't read,
there you go.
You ain't gonna know what kind of diaper to put on me when I get a little bit more older, and I want you to put on my good name brand ones that look real cute on me. You ain't gonna know what to put on. I'm gonna need you to be able to read that brand real good. So I'm gonna teach them now how to read. So I teach them, and we do, which is Knowledge is Powerful and Literacy program.
Knowledge is power and literacy.
And so if they realize that now, they're going to make a difference to do different. Because they're going to be able to know that Miss Tuff took out of her schedule and Miss Jones took out of her schedule to come over here to make sure we knew how to read. That's important for me. Very important. And you know what else I do with them? Is that when they can do what they're supposed to, I do what they call Tuff Bucks. These are little money.
I love these.
With my little photo on it.
I love it.
So we do math. Because not only do I know I need you to know how to read, I need you to know how to count my money when I give you $20. And so they're all in different shapes. So we do $50 bills. Okay, we do $100 bills because I need them to be able to count more than $1. So when we come back, we do dollar bills. So when they come back, I have sponsors who come back and say, Miss Tuff, you know, I love what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. How can I come back and give? How can I come back and be a sponsor and support you?
Oh, I love it.
And how do I come back and be able to say, okay, you need some snacks. You need some money for the funding. Y'all want to go over to a STEM conference. Y'all, what do you want to do? How do we come back? So I have people that come back and give us every month to my nonprofit, and we take those funds to be able to go back. So they come back on my Kids on the Move for Success.org and become one of my shakers and movers and give on a they come back and give on a monthly basis.
Sponsor a child.
Yeah. And like, okay, Miss Tuff, what do you need? This is what we need. Even down to volunteers. Okay, Miss Tuff, what do you need? I need volunteers. We need volunteers to be academic buddies in our reading programs. I need them to come back and just read to a baby, read a paragraph. You know, we're doing Commissioners Read-In Day. So the commissioners are going to come in and read to our kids. I'm bringing in other authors that are authors that look like my kids. They're going to sit down and read to them.
And when do you do all this?
So we have a whole calendar that I give to my parents so that they can be able to see. They get a whole calendar just like this. And it comes back to show them, like, this is what we're doing. So they know what they're going to do for the whole month.
Good.
You know, and I need you to be there. Even with that, I said, okay, you know what? We're educating our kids. We're bringing in volunteers. We're bringing in sponsors. We're bringing in academics, and even I come over and I say, okay, look, I need somebody to help me with social media. Because, you know, we get a little, I can't do all that. I need somebody to come over and help me.
Well, you got a tremendous social media group. I'm telling you, they're great.
We always need volunteers for that. You know, they come back and say, okay, Ms. Tuff, I need a volunteer engagement. Somebody to call the volunteers and somebody to call the parents, you know, and all that. So we look at all this. It takes a team to do it. It takes a village to raise one child. We're building villages and teams to be able to say.
And so are you doing all of this in one area of DeKalb or many areas?
No, right now I have kids in 5 schools in Atlanta.
Whoa!
5 districts.
And what does the district say? Do you do this on district time? I mean, school time?
Yeah.
During the school during the school day?
Yeah. So today we did. I do during school and after school.
Both.
So So today we did game night. So I give them like a little free night where we do game night. So today they had game night, but then they also had math day. So even though they did some games, but they still went and did math because they got to get some math in there and some literacy in there. So they did a mixture of both and had game time too. So they do that after school. So we do literacy, games, STEM projects and all that after school, robotics and all that after school. Well, tomorrow they're going to be doing with the police officers. So we do things during their lunchtime. So that they can't get stuff and all that, we do that during their lunchtime.
So you actually are a community organizer.
Oh, yeah, we do all that.
You're a community schools organizer. Mm-hmm. You're doing what we're asking. There's another piece to this that we really want to put in place in the community schools that you would not do, and that is finding funding for affordable housing so people don't have to move out. Mm-hmm. Finding transportation. If someone has to move out, the child can come back. Finding jobs so that people make more than $15 mm-hmm. an hour on a consistent, sustainable basis mm-hmm. so that what you're setting up now will be self-running.
Yeah.
And then we can build those communities up.
That's right.
In 5 schools. Oh, I'm so chills. I got to come and teach you my
yes.
card games for kids.
Oh, most definitely. Ooh, yeah,
math,
most definitely.
We do math.
Okay, good, because we're doing a big STEM day, and you all was involved with it last year. I appreciate Penny and everybody coming out for us. We're doing a big STEM day on May the 7th, and what I do on that STEM day is that I bring back exhibitors. So we have about 700 kids, between 500 to 700 kids in that school. It fluctuates, depends upon what the enrollment is, but it's usually between 500 to 700. And we rotate each child from pre-K all the way to 5th grade, including special ed, through all the exhibitors in the room, in the school. We take over the whole school that day. And we
what do you mean by exhibitors?
So we have people in the community come in, like you all came in and Penny set up the actual whole studio. They did like a mock studio there, so the kids was able to come in and see what live production was. They had the actual mics there and actually go through the whole process of it. We had science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, because we do it based off of STEAM. So we had a scientist there, we had technology there, where they came in and they showed the kids, D from Dino's Phones had kids to come in and build the phones and show them how to put the electronic stuff in.
And their parents followed them because they wanted to know too.
Yeah, so it's like what does all that look like? So teaching our kids now, what does it look like? So when they get to be in middle school and high school, they already know what they want to do. They can already get jobs in those fields because they have been exposed to it. See, we don't go where we need to go because it's a lack of knowledge. So how do I get to it? I get to it because somebody exposed me to it. Somebody said, this is what this looks like.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing at Kids on the Move for Success. Giving them just a little snapshot. Snapshot.
I love you. I love you. Today, I'd like to tell everybody that I spent the morning at the Concerned Black Clergy. I'm a member. I'm concerned and I'm clergy, but I'm not black. And they received me so well. They had business day, and I was hoping sometime WCEG would be able to come to this. It's African American economic successes in business. Mm-hmm. And they must have had 45 people come from all of the different sectors.
Okay.
And these are adults that are entrepreneurs, but also people who have are in businesses or have set up businesses and are hiring their own black personnel and training them.
Okay.
Filming, there were people there from film, bankers, lawyers, people working in the public sector, artists. There was an African musician who came from Ohio who's starting up a shop down here. Mm-hmm. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating people. But one of the things that I'm working with them through their education committee is to strengthen and make a collaboration of those particular people that are working in education with young African Americans in both, in all of the systems, but mainly in Fulton County, Atlanta Public Schools, and DeKalb County. Okay. Because we need to identify and strengthen the schools that these kids are in. Mm-hmm. It is not acceptable that they can be in fourth grade and not read. That's not acceptable. And that isn't necessary either. But the roadblocks that they have can be challenged and moved around if we can create a sustainable environment that allows them to stay in one place. Same for the teachers. Mm-hmm. Same for the community support people. I'm just thrilled to hear what you're doing because I think it is the key to success for the African American community. One of the things I worry about in terms of African Americans is that by third grade there's a movement called the school to prison pipeline. Mm-hmm. I've read a statistic from Michelle Alexander. Mm-hmm. In which she said that the for-profit prisons depend on the number of or decide on the number of beds they need by the kids that can't read in third grade, which I think is foolish.
Well, it can be foolish, but guess what we're going to do?
We're going to teach them to read.
That's right. That's why I actually implemented knowledge is power and literacy.
Exactly.
Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it?
Well, what I cannot understand is systemically what isn't being done. The kids have been in school since kindergarten.
Well, this is the thing you got to look at.
What are the roadblocks that are keeping them away? Let's move those roadblocks away.
Well, first of all, one of the things that I see with me being on the ground every day is that you got a classroom with one teacher and 20-some kids. And some classes can go up to 30, depends upon what grade level they're in. But when you got 20
you don't have that in a private school, and you don't have that in a religious school, and you don't have that in white schools.
But this is the thing about it, is that when you can have that many kids, right, and you got one or two of them, that behavior levels is so overwhelming.
Oh, you're right.
It's hard for that teacher to teach the other 17, 18, when I got John, Sue, and Mary over here just tearing up the whole class. Because I got to go over here now and try to control all that. And guess what happens to this other 17 kids that's sitting over here? They get absolutely nothing. Because there's nobody to teach them. You know why? Because the teacher's over here dealing with these three right here. But guess why they're acting out? You know why they're acting out? Because they can't read. They can't do the work. So what happens is that we're looking at behavior issues. There's no behavior issues. You know why? Because the behavior issues would be limited if they knew how to do the work.
Not only that, if they knew how to speak, if they knew how to communicate. I taught in other schools that didn't have problems with reading, but what triggered kids was things that happened at home. This one little kid threw a chair in the middle of reading. He would just get mad, and he started screaming and threw a chair across the room. And I said, well, I think that now we really need to just take some time out. Come on with me. We're going to go to the office. And I got someone to watch the kids. And he looked at me as we were walking down the hallway. He said, I didn't throw it at any kids. But he was so frustrated. This child had watched his father put a gun at his mother's head. He just told us that. Mm-hmm. We don't know what these kids are going through. All. And they don't have counselors in school anymore?
Well, they have counselors, but this is what you got to look at. Like our school has a counselor, but it's one counselor to 500 and some kids. How's she going to service all them kids?
You can't.
Can't.
You can't.
And see, our kids don't come in now with just, Susie hit me. Susie talked about me. These kids coming in schools with trauma.
Yes.
And nobody in the school has that old, you know, when grandma used to say,
we haven't had the trauma. We've not experienced it.
Not only that, but you don't got them old grandmamas coming in there with that good old love. That's why I get me some senior citizens to come in there and read to my babies, because it ain't nothing like it when they just come in and just love on them real good, give them that good old mommy love. You ain't got that in school no more, because what happens is that everybody is trying to make it. So you trying to make it at home, you trying to make it in the school. So who helps a child to show them that it's all right to make it? And then my kids that I service are homeless kids and foster kids, and they all live in at-risk communities. So they're trying to survive.
Yeah.
So how you gonna tell me to read when I ain't ate this morning? Can I get a breakfast sandwich? Or how you trying to tell me to read when I ain't took a bath last night? So, you know, you dealing with trauma on all levels that we just didn't deal with.
Yes.
And so when you look at that, it becomes, who's going to come back and say to me, here's a breakfast sandwich. Here's something else to put on.
Right.
We don't look at the little things that they're suffering with every day. And that's where it escalates and it becomes out with behavior in the classroom. It becomes out, I ain't doing what you're telling me to do. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. Is that dog, cat? What's that, an A or B? It's the basic stuff that I'm realizing my kids don't get, and they in 5th grade and can't read and reading at kindergarten levels. So if you in 5th grade, you can go to middle school next year. So you already trying to catch up. So it's those things that we got to go back and look at it. And even with that, when you have nonprofits like us, it's hard to be able to do that. And you know, you come back. We need funding to do that. You need people to come back and say, Antoinette, I see what you're doing and I support you. I do this out of my own pocket. A lot of it. So it's hard to go do some other extra things that I would like to do with my kids because the funding comes into play.
That's right.
It also comes into play as the parents can't get them there. So now we got to try to figure out transportation issues when we want them to do certain things. So all of those things come into play. And the only way that's going to change is us as a community saying we're going to take back our communities.
There you go.
And support each other and say, instead of me buying these shoes today, I'm going to go over here and get it as nonprofit that I know that's going to help my baby read. I'm going to go over here and help this nonprofit out because I know Miss Tuff going to take the funding and take my baby over there to a STEM conference so they can be able to see some scientists that look like them and have some opportunities.
Amen.
I'm going to go over here and give Miss Tuff some money with her nonprofit because she's going to take my babies over here to a college fair that they're going to be able to know before they get in 12th grade what college they going to. They're going to know what they're going to study and they ain't going to waste my money.
Listen, are you familiar with the Georgia Coalition for Public Education?
Tell me about it.
Okay. This is a coalition of organizations that really were pulled together when the governor was going to put in the Opportunity School District.
Okay. And
we went all over the state and did a lot of advocacy for public schools, keep our schools local.
Okay.
Now we're doing another movement in which we're trying to bring about improving public schools. Mm-hmm. Just improve them.
Right.
Don't give the money otherwhere. Well, we got a grant, and so any community that is affiliated with the school can get up to a $5,000 grant through the Georgia Coalition for Public Education.
Oh, good, because we need that.
Well, I'll give you the information, and for anybody else that's listening, but you cannot be in the school system and apply for the grant. It has to be a community outside of the school that will receive the grant and also follow through with a report. It's not a lot of paperwork.
My thing is, at the end of the day, Rev, I'm just going to be honest with you. For me, it's like, how do we stop our busy lives and listen to our kids cry? Do we got to have another mass shooting to see that? Do we got to go back and have another child commit suicide to see that? Do we got to have it in our front yard before we realize it is already in our backyard to see that? Our kids are crying more now than ever. When are we going to stop for a moment to say that your life is worth living for?
Well, my problem with the white community, and I'll say it right now, is that there are so many people that look over the divide and say, those are your kids, you take care of them. They don't see this as a human child. They'll go to Africa, India, Guatemala, and they'll initiate so many efforts to take care of children in foreign countries that are hurting. But they don't see in America the huge divide. These are all of our children. Mm-hmm. And from a Christian point of view, I mean, that's why the Catholic schools became so elite. That's why I climbed down the ladder. And my initiative, especially with Concerned Black Clergy, is to find, to seek, and to serve communities that are in the most need. Mm-hmm. In Atlanta has the greatest income inequality of any city in the United States. Mm-hmm. Atlanta. They're all in Atlanta public schools. DeKalb County is also included in that. When you have income inequality, you have to work at all of this from so many different angles. Mm-hmm. You're doing what you can do, but there's an outside community through city councils, through just a broader outreach to say, we need to put money and invest in this generation. That's fine that you're an entrepreneur and you want to build this business of your own. Bring that business back to your own community and serve it. Here's someone that you can serve. I mean, give the money to Antoinette Tuff. She'll use it. And she'll do it well.
Most definitely.
She'll do it well.
Most definitely. One of the things that I do with my kids is I used to have adults helping me with like filming and production and all that. I let them go, and I brought in some students from Georgia State. I make sure that I have kids. So when you see me, you're gonna have. I'm gonna have kids. When I come back and I see a need, I bring in kids to do that. Because when I can bring in a child to do something and to show them and allow them to see the light go off,
yes,
they ain't gonna be over there robbing your house and sticking you up and holding you hostage. You know why? Because they know when they come over to Kids on the Move for Success, wherever they volunteering, wherever they being a peer mentor, or wherever they doing production or whatever it is that they doing, they know that life is gonna be worth living for. Because when they follow with me, we ain't gonna have no problem. I promise you. My kids now, I had my babies crying. First they used to cry because it was funny when we first did our Discovery STEAM mentoring program. Eric's like, why you going to elementary school? I'm like, because I'm not going to middle and high. Everybody's going to middle and high. I'm getting my kids in elementary. I was in elementary and I realized the need. And so when we first launched it, I remember one of my babies, he cried and cried and cried. He was in 3rd grade. He cried and cried and cried. He was crying and his mama was crying. And so she said, I just can't leave my baby. I just can't leave my baby. I said, I promise you, he going to come back the same way you brought him to me. She said, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I said, look, this is what I want you to do. She said, what is it? I said, I'm going to give you these few little dollars. I'm going to need you to go to McDonald's. Or, matter of fact, go on over to Chick-fil-A, because that's one of our partners. Go on over to Chick-fil-A and get your ice cream cone. Just sit down and get your ice cream cone. Sit down just with you for this next 2 hours. and enjoy you for a moment. She said, I ain't never did. I don't know how to do that. I said, but this is going to be your start day right here. You going to get you some mommy time. Go get your ice cream cone, get your book if you want to, turn the music on in your car if you want to, and sit down with you for 2 hours. That's all. So she cried. I had to literally just put her out. Now,
in third grade?
In third grade. She was so attached to her son. And so her son was like, I can't leave my mom. I said, yes, you are. You're going to go over there with them other little boys and them little girls over there, and we're going to have a great time and all that. We're going to do all this. Now, he be telling his mama, bye, and I ain't coming home. I'm going to leave you. And she be like, Miss Tuff, is it Mother's Day? I need my mama time. No problem.
Oh, I'm certainly hoping that everybody's listening to this.
She be like, Miss Tuff, can I get my mama time this weekend? You got the kids this weekend.
When do you get Miss Tuff time?
You know what? I just enjoy being with my kids. Whether I'm here in Atlanta, I have my mentoring program is also in Dallas, Texas, or whether I'm in Dallas, Texas with my kids. They're my new found friends. I love it. When everybody say, what's your happy place? That's my happy place. Like today we was playing cards and games and stuff. We was playing Uno and I was determined they wasn't going to win me.
Good luck.
And they did. And then Saturday we went over to the Atlanta Science Festival is in town up until the 23rd. So I gave them a whole schedule so that we could be able to participate in some of the events.
So the parents bring them to...
They bring them to it. So some of my parents don't have rides, so I try to pick up as many of them as I can. I'm going to have a small car, so we can't pick up that many. So if anybody's out there listening and you got an SUV or van you want to just go and donate to us, we going to take it.
Oh,
we need it
good idea. Yeah, great.
Real bad.
Okay, but we're going to push that wish forward.
Yes, we need that really bad. So these kids that can't go, we can be able to give them transportation. Because some of my parents are sickly, and so they can't take them. But I don't want my kids to miss out because the parents are at work or they're sick or something's going on. A lot of my kids is that their grandparents are raising them.
There you go.
And so they're older. So they got health ailments and all that kind of stuff. So they try to do the best that they can, but
I'm telling you,
a
lot of grandparents are great.
Yes. Oh, they my best cheerleaders.
And another thing is, I never understood, well, we didn't have to in the white community, but I always thought that it would be good to adopt a child that couldn't come. So I would partner one parent with another parent. Mm-hmm. And
we do that too.
Yeah, I just think that in terms of adoption, mm-hmm. I have to put this little plug in. My niece sent me this little meme today, and it was a picture of two little 5-year-olds. And this one 5-year-old told his mother that he wanted to have his hair cut so he could be a twin with his buddy. So they gave him a haircut, and he said, now we look like twins, and our teacher will never tell us apart. One was white and one was black. We're twins. And the teacher says, I don't know which one are you? I just love that.
Yes, you have got to be able to teach our kids that color has no name. And that's one of the things that I do with my kids. Like when we're doing things and all that, we come together. I tell them when one move, we all move.
One of the problems with living in white culture is African Americans cannot afford, like the Catholic or the private schools. They can't afford it. It's too expensive. So then the ones that can afford it are all white. And I think that's a nesting ground.
Well, the thing about it is this, is that we have some good public schools here.
Oh, yeah.
My kids went to a public school, but what makes public schools good, and you don't have to really send your child. I mean, I think it's okay if you send your child to private school or public school, but I don't care where you send them. If you ain't got no parent participation, it don't make no difference if you're going to public or private.
That's right.
Parents have got to get involved. One of the things that I tell parents in my programs is that they have to be 100% involved. I'm not a babysitter. I'm not just taking your child because I just want to take children. I'm taking your children and your family So when I come into your life, it's a family that I'm coming into your life.
You need to get one of those grants from the coalition.
We all have to come in to make a difference. So my parents know that if they're not 100% participant, they are out of my program. So what I did is I realized that even though I'm educating the child, we're doing different things and all that, I had to still come back and educate my parents. So we came and we did a actual parent academy where my parents can go and get job training. They can go in and get their GED. They can even go in. I partnered up with one of our community leaders. It's called University for Parents. I partnered up with them. They give out Marty cards, food, and all kinds of stuff. Because I can't do it all.
Where is that?
It's right here in Atlanta. I'll give you the information. And they can even go to my website.
We got to share.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I want to tell everybody, I'm going to take a little break. We're listening to Antoinette Tuff, and she is giving out Tuff Bucks. You're listening to WCEG, the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. And I'm Reverend Diane Dougherty, and this is Take a Stand. And we're just grateful to have this marvelous woman who is a minister in her own right. One of the things that I understand is that God gives you the ministry, and it isn't confined to a church. Mm-mm. As a matter of fact, I think that's probably one of the big problems is that so many people think I have to go to church to listen and God is going to reward me. No, you have to get up and pray every day. You have to get out and look at who is in the most need. And you have to minister to those voices that are inside of you that says, this is where I want you to go. So I can't thank you enough. And for just being you and for listening to that call. You surely have taken a stand, not just with the incident that you had. You brought about the resurrection of yourself in a new life, in a transformed way. You are not, this is Lent, and we're moving on to Easter. And if you talk about a true transformation of self. I think at the beginning of your story, you spoke very clearly about how life just crushed you, was crushing you, was making you believe that you had nothing to offer. What if you had walked in front of those that truck and that car? What if? It is the very difficulties that you have gone through that has brought you to the resurrection of Antoinette Tuff today. And so I thank God. I praise God. I praise our Christian life. And I'd like everybody as a listener to know that if you're in the midst of depression, if you're in the midst of a very terrible time, if you don't know where you're going and you have no place to go, this is your end of the fall, beginning of winter, beginning of spring. And it doesn't, you just look outside, it doesn't look so good. But believe me, stick with God.
That's it.
Stick with God and stick with God's light in life. And there will be a resurrection, and you will do something you had no idea you were called to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
You're a pleasure.